We've now successfully walked through the four-step process for scheduling in Microsoft Project 2013. Step 1 was all about creating and entering in your work breakdown structure, your phases, tasks, and milestones. And that really represents the scope of the project or what it is that you're doing to accomplish the success of that project and driving towards the end result of the project. Once you figure out what you need to get done, then you need to figure out when things need to occur. And that's all about step 2 and 3, estimating the task durations and setting the task dependencies. And then you can start to analyze and understand the critical path. Step 4 then is to figure out who's going to do all that work that you've created in your work breakdown structure and your task arrangement. So this four-step process is a very efficient way to set up your plans in Microsoft Project, but it also gives you an idea of what's driving your schedule. And what I like to talk about next is the key things that really impact or understanding the calculation engine for Microsoft Project, especially for auto-schedule tasks. And there are really 6 key factors that impact the calculation of time, right? You think about the start and finish dates that Microsoft Project is calculating. And there are 4 key factors that impact the calculation of cost. And once you understand and know these key factors or these 10 key things, you can really master the use of Project and optimize your plan to accomplish your scheduling needs. So let's talk about the time first. There are 6 key factors that we've already covered that impact the calculation of time for auto scheduling in Project 2013. The first one is calendars, and if you remember, under the Project tab you can click on Change Working Time and create new calendars. And then once you create new calendars, you apply them at the project level, the task level, or the resource level. And Microsoft Project is smart enough to take all of that into consideration when it's calculating the start and finish date of tasks. The next key factor was the project start date. And in the project start date, you define that under the project information dialog box. Again, you'll find that under the project tab. And that drives where everything gets scheduled from. Now you can also define your project finish date and do backward scheduling, but it's easier to do the project start date schedule from and then use the deadline tools that we introduced. Again, a big key factor that impacts the calculation of start and finish dates in your schedule. The third thing, of course, is duration estimates. And remember that 1 day is really 8 hours, 5 days is 1 week, and the conversion for a month is 20 days. The fourth thing was dependencies and links. And remember that we want to accomplish a schedule that we have all of the tasks and milestones networked. So all tasks should have a predecessor unless it's driven by the start date of the project. And really all tasks should have a successor unless it's the last thing in the project. Now that's a good guideline to work towards. We also talked about item 5, which is task constraints. And I suggested that they can be useful, but use with caution. And majority, if not all, should be as soon as possible. The sixth thing we looked at was resource assignments, and especially in effort-based tasks, they will have a big impact on the calculation of your schedule. And we talked about the fact work equals duration times units, and the idea that you can fix one. So you can have a duration-based task, which is fixed duration, or a work-based task, which is fixed work, and you can have fixed units with effort-driven turned on to accomplish an effort-based schedule as well. So those are the 6 key factors that impact the calculation of time. Then we looked at cost. And there are really 4 key factors that impact the calculation of cost in project. One of them, of course, is resource assignments, right? As you assign your resource, work is calculated, and of course, if you have a standard rate associated with that work, then a cost will be calculated. So if you assign somebody 10 hours and it's $100 an hour, that's $1,000 to do that task. The other one, of course, was material type resources. We talked about things like software, hardware, or any unit cost, really. And if there's a unit cost, you might have a per seat charge or a per kilogram charge or a per pound charge. Those types of things can be built into your unit costs. And then of course there's the cost type resource where you assign the resource and then just type in the cost upon the assignment to that task. We also talked about the standard and overtime rates. So it's possible to have an overtime rates, and of course the more hours or units assigned, the higher the cost based on that particular rate. There was also the cost per use field next to the standard and overtime rates that you can actually assign a lump sum. So every time you assign that resource, the lump sum comes with that particular assignment. And the last thing is the fixed cost column. It is possible to go to the add column and insert a fixed cost column, which is completely separate from the resource sheet, and add costs to any task or milestone that has nothing to do with assigning resources. And these are really the key things that impact the calculation of cost and project. So together, with this knowledge, you can really optimize your schedule and master the use of project.